Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're going to discuss about Catasetum orchids. It is their season, they're supposed to bloom or produce flower spikes at least, and they're doing that. However, it's not all good news. It's not necessarily bad news either, it's just weird news. But before we go ahead and do that, let me just remind you a little bit about this orchid. She is finally fading now. My, let's say, cattleya that looks like the violacea. I've had this one in bloom for about a month and a half, maybe even more. I was in vacation when this one bloomed, and it's just now that she's losing her flowers. It was pretty long lasting for a cattleya. If you think about Phalaenopsis, you might say, oh, that's not impressive. It's not, but for a cattleya, it really is. So yeah, if you ever see this one, it's a no ID by the way, just know that it smells really nice, flowers are really pretty, and apparently they are also long-lived. So the first one we're gonna talk about is the Millenium Magic Witchcraft. Now I'm not sure how popular this orchid still is. About a few years ago it was all the rave because it was one of the few very dark, almost black colored flowers you would get on an orchid. And it wasn't really all that available in Europe. Luckily my YouTube friend Fifi sent me one about 3 years ago. And in the last 3 years, for the life of me, I could not rebloom this orchid. You can see how tiny the old pseudobulbs were, and this year finally she created a worthy pseudobulb, and she's blooming. The problem is I have a funny suspicion the blooms are all wonky. So let me show you what I mean. Do we notice something strange about the blooms? Yes, they're kind of frilly. Well, they're not supposed to look like that. And I've noticed that something was wrong, but I kept hoping that it was just the way the buds formed until I googled the buds, and no, they actually look pretty nice, no frilliness. They look like a typical orchid bud. Ooh, quite windy today as well. Autumn is coming, yes! So the buds have just started to pick up color. I think this is pretty normal. They start out pretty greeny whitey, but then they obtain the very dark purple color. So as far as I know, this is very normal. What's not normal is the shape. Now, my suspicion is that all these frilly bits are actually the sepals, which are split somehow and are dangling in the wind somehow. Well, not really, but this is the look it kind of has. And I can tell you these flowers will not be normal. They will be mutated. Not sure what's gonna happen. So yeah, you know, I'm kind of bummed about it because it's the first time that I see this orchid in bloom after so many years, and I thought this year I got it right, but then this happens. I have a suspicion towards what happened. Clearly it's a mutation, but let me show you the flower spike. So we have it starting here. Everything looks very normal, and then let's go down the stem. It starts to look not so normal, and I think if I move it a little bit you'll be able to see what I mean. Do you see that striation that continues? And it also continues on the little stems of the flowers as well. Now this is not supposed to happen. It's not how it's supposed to look like. I have a feeling the fibers are not properly developed. They're incomplete. And there's just a total mutation here that there's no way to correct. And everything kind of started here. Do you see the color difference? Everything starts out okay, and then all of a sudden from this node, the colors get streaky and there's this striation that starts. Let me focus a little better. And when I touch it, I can feel it. It's like this is split in half. This is round and smooth and nice, and this is kind of streaky and just flush. It's not how it's supposed to be. So that led to the total mutation of this flower spike, sadly. What's gonna happen and how the flowers will look like? Oh my, I really don't know. I hope it's gonna be okay, and I hope the flowers will still remain within the orchid type flowers, meaning they will have sepals and petals and a lip, and they will have the color and the fragrance. But at this point, I'm not entirely sure, so I'm pretty disappointed. However, there is a glimmer of hope, and I just noticed now it's kind of windy, and I hope the audio is not bad. If somehow the audio got a little wonky in this video, I'm so sorry about that. I just realized it. We'll close the window if that's the case. So a little glimmer of hope. I think there might be another flower spike sprouting from here. I can feel the bump, and you can see it's already a little bit light colored. I noticed this bump yesterday, so not enough time for it to develop and tell you if it grows, but there is a bump. So I really hope that another spike will be created and it will be normal, because right now, I really doubt this will look good. So let's take a look now at let's take a look at the Wine Delight, shall we? Alrighty, I closed the window, so no more audio issues. Now, the Wine Delight is the least weird one, I have to say. This has been with me for 3 years already, or more than 3 years. It bloomed so many times that at this point I don't really remember. So this has always been a reliable bloomer, and this year he created a much bigger spike, or actually cane, not spike. He has been doing wonderful, but look at this. So he's producing 2 flower spikes. That's not weird. It happened to me before. 1 year I had 3 flower spikes from this guy. He's a very prolific bloomer in this regard, so that's not strange. But look at this spike. This one still looks normal, but this one, do you see at the top, you can already see the little bud? It's not supposed to be that way. And I know this guy for so long, I know exactly how it's supposed to look like. This spike needs to be a little longer before the buds start to show. But on this guy, you see here, the little bud showing. Let me rotate it a little bit for you. What's that little bud doing there? It's not normal. So I suspect this flower spike will have a mutation as well. Hopefully the other one will not. It looks normal still. This one doesn't. This one will have some issues, I can tell. Oh my, no, I can see what happened. So let me show you. So see there, it looks like the spike had some issues, and that node right there got trapped in the foliage somehow, and it started to pull on the buds, and that's why. Yeah, let's see the other one. This one looks okay. Yeah, so far I don't see any mutations. But looky here, again, a node issue, very similar to the Millenium Magic. It's the first time that I see this wrinkling here. So yeah, you know what? Maybe this one will turn out to be normal from the point of view of flowers, but at this point, I don't know what to say. I really hope it's not going to have the same fate, but do you see the resemblance? So this has been the Wine Delight, but as I was telling you, it's the least weird kind of one, I think, out of the whole lot. So let's take a look at another one that I don't remember the name of because it's a newer one. So the name of this one is Cycnodes Orchids crossed with Heron. Alrighty, take 50. The name of this guy is Cycnodes Orchids crossed with Heron Husanum. I cannot use this take because of the noise, can I? Again. Take 51. This is the Cycnodes Orchids crossed with Heron. Oh. That's just great, isn't it? Take 64. This is the Cycnodes Orchids crossed with Heron Husanum. Finally. So this guy I purchased last year, and now we're doing that take. This guy I purchased last year, and he grew a new cane, as you can see here, a little tinier than the previous one, but he looks okay. Now at some point I thought this one was creating a flower spike, but the flower spike, what I thought was a flower spike, was trapped yet again in the leaves, in the foliage or the little sheaths, and I had to remove 2 of the leaves to save what I thought was the flower spike. Was it the flower spike? No, it's actually a keiki. Now, Catasetums don't usually produce keikis from the nodes, but it's not a rule. Sometimes they can. I've never seen one from the top like this, but I've definitely seen ones from the middle of an existing cane. But what can we see here? It's a mangled tiny keiki. It has a few roots. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it at this point. I might just let it be, but at the same time, I don't want this orchid to focus its energy on that keiki. I want it to go through the dormancy, well, hopefully bloom, but at this point, I don't even want it to bloom. I want it to be healthy. So I want this orchid to go through dormancy, lose the leaves, and start a new growth from the base, which is a proper structure for this orchid, not a keiki. So at this point, I'm thinking, you know what? The moment these roots start to absorb water, I'm just gonna remove it, pot it separately, whatever will be, will be. I don't care about the keiki, I care about the mother plant. But of course, I'm gonna film the procedure. So, yet again, this is a very peculiar behavior with Catasetums. I'm not entirely sure if it's normal behavior with this particular cross. There are some species that are very new to me, but from what I see and from what I read, it's not very normal, especially when winter is about to come for Catasetums to produce keikis, is it? But can you see a little resemblance with the other Catasetum orchids? All of them had issues with their spikes or new growths just piercing the leaves or sheaths. They got caught in the leaves, And I'm not sure what caused that, to be honest. I am inclined to say hydration, and I'll get to it. But also it could be some sort of nutrition, either deficiencies, either excess. So let me show you one more Catasetums and then we'll get to talking. Okay, so this one is a little too big to fit in the frame, but hold on, I'll show it to you. Okay, so this is the Catasetum pileatum Pierre Curie crossed with expansum. At some point I thought this one will produce a flower spike because they do produce the spikes before the pseudobulbs mature, as far as I know. Well, it produced another keiki, but this happened quite a long time ago, 2 months ago or so, and it actually happened while this growth was maturing. They're both maturing at this point. Is this normal behavior? No, yet again, it's not normal behavior, and furthermore, I'm not sure if I can turn this guy around, and P.S. I need to repot this guy. I need to do it. It's just so heavy, unstable, and weird, and so hard to describe how bad it is that I need to repot it. And at this point, I need to take the camera in my hand. Okay, here we go. What is that? That's another keiki, and it's sprouting from like the tiniest, shrivelest little cane here. This is a seedling cane. I don't know if you can even see it, but yeah, that's a little keiki sprouting there. And here we go. These are the two growths that are just growing at an angle. Everything is just not okay with this guy. So yet again, not normal behavior, keiki instead of a flower spike. The keiki looks normal, but both of these growths have matured at the same time. It's not like this one matured and then it produced the keiki for the year, for the season. No, they both matured at the same time. Now let's talk about what possibly caused this. Okay, now there are two more Catasetums that I didn't show you, but those ones are still maturing. So far so good, but they didn't spike yet, so I'm expecting the worst for them as well. So what happened to my Catasetums this year, just in case you missed it? Well, I used slow release fertilizer when I repotted my Catasetums this year, and I used too much of it. Therefore, after a month or two, I had to re-repot them, get rid of that slow release fertilizer because it was killing the roots, it was burning them, it was too excessive. I measured at some point 800 or 900 parts per million fertilizer, rather dissolved solids in my water, the soaking water. That wasn't pretty, so I had to re-repot them. And everything went smoothly ever since then. New roots were produced, the older ones, they died off, but that's okay. For a short period, my Catasetums were a little bit dehydrated, but they produced roots very fast, and the situation was saved pretty much. However, I cannot change the fact that for a while they received high quantities of nutrients. Even though afterwards things piped down, maybe that has something to do with it. However, mutations are generally produced by hormonal imbalances, and things that affect hormones are of course other hormones if you dose them. I did not dose anything weird to these Catasetum orchids. I did not use Super Thrive on them. I used my MSU fertilizer that I used last year as well, so from this point of view nothing really changed. So I didn't put kelp or anything on them to mess around with their hormonal balance. At the same time, changes in environment can mess them up a little bit, but nothing really changed. I kept them in the same environment, they received the same water, so environmental issues, I tend to think no. The only thing that I did was that whole fiasco with the slow release fertilizer, but I'm not sure if the balance of fertilizer can affect hormonally an orchid in such a way. On one hand, I tend to believe no, but at the same time, let's just think a little bit about Dendrobium nobilis. What happens if you don't stop fertilizing them during their winter rest? Well, there's a high chance you're gonna end up with 15 keikis instead of flower spikes. And what did I do with my Catasetums? I over-fertilized them. But with the nobilis, it's not about over-fertilizing them, it's about continuously fertilizing them in a period in which they should experience what they call in their natural habitat winter, right? Less water, less fertilizer, more light. So it's not really the same, but it's the only case in which I can relate fertilizer to mutations or to weird behaviors. Speaking about that, as you could see, I'm not only dealing with some weird, irrational behavior. I'm dealing with quite the mutation, at least on this guy. And I suspect there is a mutation on the Wine Delight as well. With the other guys, it's just about creating keikis instead of flower spikes. And with the last Catasetums that I have, with the last two, I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see what they do. It's pretty stressful. And as a side note, the Catasetums are the only ones exhibiting this behavior because they're the only ones that I used excessive slow-release fertilizer on. So there we go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you found this intriguing, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how these guys blooms. So you know the drill. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchids and plants videos, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye!